Hello, hello, hello. I'm Elpy, your guide over at the theElpyDimension. We are in, I was going to say we're in the worm farms. We're in the worm farm. Perhaps we're in the worm farms is best. Anywho, I have four DIY worm bins in my basement. And this is the second one. Perhaps you've already seen my video about the European Nightcrawler bin number 2 and the feeding of it. The time before last, I harvested half of that bin and fed, and this bin, the red wiggler bin, as well as that bin, their population has been looking kind of frail to me. All the adults appear to have died, and I just have a bunch of younger worms left over. It could be due to neglect on my part. It could be mites. It's obviously the conditions of the bins have not been ideal. So I'm making a point to be more consistent like I used to be. It's today is July 30th, 2024, and last time I was in here was July 21st, so 9 days ago. That's not too bad. But I am going to try to check in every week, maybe 10 days. But right off the bat, looking like it always does. I always have some sort of drier, crustier material on top. At the end of my last video, I noticed these dead dry worms. It's not the end of the world, but it's interesting. It's not impossible for them to climb up the side of the bin and then die. I don't see any evidence of any mass migrations or die-offs, but yeah, let's go ahead and dive in. Okay, so like I said, this is a bin that hasn't been harvested in a while, and I've said I wanted to start dividing, so maybe today I'll go ahead, and by dividing I'm just gonna put probably a paper bag in here and separate this half out. I've picked up a lot. I first started worm farming thanks to watching a video by Gardner Scott and M.I. Gardner. Those were the first two where I learned that I could have my own DIY worm bin. AV is a worm farmer I follow, and he's a really cool, really enjoy his channel. He does a lot of time-lapse videos. I haven't been over there admittedly in a while, but so I think he was the first channel that I saw doing the like migrations, where he would separate the worm bins to get them to migrate into the newer stuff. But anyways, yeah, so that's just a little tiny quick background. Okay, so it's not uncommon for me to dig through the side. This is a chunk of wood that I just think is, why not put it in there? Why not? It's been in there for a long time. I know it's not going to break down anytime soon, but I just sort of nerd out on the idea that as it breaks down, it's feeding the microbes and stuff in here. Why not? So I was saying that it's not uncommon for me to dig through the side that's not been, this is said to be compostable. They say commercially compostable, like Keurig cup. And it is breaking down. It's been in there at least a year. Anyways, so I was saying that it's not uncommon to dig through one side of the bin and not see any worms. I see a couple. But it's also interesting, just kind of makes your mind say, okay, I see. So you guys aren't throughout. Hopefully that's because you are loving the food over in the other side, and that's where you all want to be. So it's not something to worry about, but it is just something to make note of. That was one thing that this population and the other, I said, okay, yeah, I see. You guys aren't throughout the bin, but But then when I dug through the other half, and I always go through the food where I fed last, if not going through it is a thing. But I was kind of concerned when I didn't really see, I still didn't see much. Now the last video I made, that I made today, in the European Nightcrawler bin, I did find the worms throughout the new and old material, and that was a really great sign. It means they're happy in their environment. What I'm doing is just breaking up the material. You don't have to do it, but us worm farmers like to do it. And I do believe that it is good for the castings, at least in my environment with my practices, because it adds air and it breaks up the material. So that's what I like to do. All right. So this is a little bit less than half the bin, but I'm going to get some paper just to put there. That's kind of more for myself than anything. Hold on, please. Okay, now the other people I've watched poke holes in their little divider, and I used to as well. Like I said, I'm kind of lazy with my worm farming, and my divider is not such a clean fit that the worms can't find their way around it. But I did poke a couple of holes in this. Usually I would do this at the end. Since I'm recording, I'm distracted. Alright, this is all old stuff. But since I decided to do that in the middle of my feeding and checking, I'm just going to go ahead and shovel these chunks over here for now. Because really what I should do is work on getting more of the finished looking material to this side that's going to be harvested first, because this is where I've been feeding. So let's see. Obviously I fed, oh yeah, that's right, I had super funky cherries. Hold on. Alright, I'm back. I went ahead and put on a mask just to be cautious, because I already had a bunch of moldy products that I put in here, and I can see that there's really moldy cherries. It's not the end of the world for me, but still, why not, right? Oh yeah, and I had some corn on the cob that, okay, oh, look at that. Nice little cluster of worms. I put the food in egg carton. That looks like a blue worm to me. So, not to my surprise, this is a mixed bin. Mites and potworms. The stringy white-like things. Those are potworms. They're not bad, but the mites they're gonna go out to the outdoor bin, compost bin. All right. So we got some more worms down there and along the edge of the bin, hanging out. Cool, cool. I'm gonna feed on that side this time, but, well, obviously I fed all in the middle. So we saw that there's still some cherry remainders, as well as a little bit of corn. By the way, as soon as I dug in here, I can feel heat. If I had my thermometer, we'd likely find it to be 80 degrees Fahrenheit, which is something like 27 degrees Celsius. Now it's mostly the mold from the cherries. Oh, there's some more. This was a half a lime that went bad before I got to it. And so not a ton of worms, but again, that's the deal with this population right now. But I see that they're not continuing to die off. Doesn't look like even less worms than before. And in fact, as I continue, and this bin was kind of dry last time. I'm happy with what I'm seeing, given what's been happening in this bin. Now, since we have leftover, but not a lot, see, there's not a lot of leftover food in here. If it was a lot, I would say, hey, let's be different than we usually are and not feed and just put the excess food outside. But it's not a lot. So I'm going to scoop all this up. Sorry, wormies. Take some of this old stuff, some of this dry stuff that we threw over here. We'll go ahead today and put our piece of wood there. Then I'm going to go get some of my wet shredded paper and probably one of the old apples and Brussels sprouts for these guys. Okay, now you might remember that last week I gave them my dry mix. I'm not going to this week for no other reason than because I'm not going to. I did not wring out the paper. The material today did not seem overly dry, but since it was dry, and I think that they are enjoying finally having some more moisture. I'm going to go ahead and not wring out most of. There's our apple. There's our Brussels sprouts. Again, I'm practicing feeding a little bit less, because we will be back in a week. And what I kind of forgot is that if my plan is that I'm working towards harvest, if I'm honest, this was actually too much bedding material. But we'll work around that next time. We'll figure out how to make it make sense in the long run. And hopefully the worms continue to improve, as I believe they are. So, sorry this was a little bit longer than I meant for it to be, but there we go. This is, so we've got half the bin. I'll use this to cover this up. This half is what we're looking to harvest out of here sooner than later. And this half is actively being fed in. And next time I need to add less paper products. But all right. Thank you so much for spending your time with me for 16 going on 17 minutes and checking out my red wiggler bin. Come back next time. And, well, the next video, again, all in the same day, but I'm spreading out publishing them. The next video, the next video will be of the mixed worm bin, which again, at this point, most of my bins are probably all mixed. And look it, this is where we fed last time. This bin also needs to be divided to harvest out that side. We are at, let's see, can you see that? We are at almost 90 degrees, so sorry guys, I don't know my conversions. I think we're at about 89, 90 degrees Fahrenheit and like 30, 31 degrees Celsius. And this is the mixed worm bin. This will be the next video, and this is where I fed. And so it's definitely breaking down. Decomposition, composting, the act of the metabolism, the action of the creatures and the microbes and bacteria and everybody breaking down the food produces a heat. That's how you get that's one part of, hot composting, is you have enough space that it gets to like 160 degrees, which these don't get, and I wouldn't want them to get in such a contained system. Doesn't belong there. But yeah, so come back next time, and I appreciate your time. Thanks for checking in on the red wiggler bin with me. Let me know your thoughts. And yeah, I feel like we're on a good trajectory. I look forward to seeing you again. I look forward to hearing from you in the comments. If you enjoyed this video, please hit the thumbs up and be safe. Stay well. See you around.